A 27-year-old man trusted his wife, a 27-year-old woman, with all his heart. We were high school sweethearts and got married with our parents' approval. She has never lied and has proven her reliability to me and my family on many occasions. I grew up with my stepfather, so I trusted his judgment as much as I trusted my mother. That's what makes my story so painful. Our 7th wedding anniversary passed while I was overseas, serving our country as a U.S. soldier. I had to spend most of my time away from home, but my wife knew about my military aspirations before we got married. She stayed at home and earned about $100 a month from her knitting projects. She was supportive, took excellent care of our home, and we always greeted each other with love when I returned home. However, this time when I came home after a 10-month deployment, something was terribly wrong. I haven't heard from my mother, stepfather, or wife in months. In fact, I received messages from my mother, but they were always short and vague when it came to my stepfather or wife. She just said that she didn't know why my wife wasn't talking to me, but she assured me that I could still get through this. This was the closest thing to a warning that something was wrong. My wife looked sick and nervous when I walked past our front. She was wearing a huge t-shirt. I immediately walked towards her and felt her struggling before I pulled her close to me. I felt a strong blow from her belly press against me, and in a split second I realized that she was pregnant and that I was not the father. I pulled her shirt to show her belly and let out a scream. She immediately broke down and cried, admitting that my stepfather forced her. It was too much for me to process. I got into the car and heard her pleas not to tell anyone. I burst into my parents' house, where my mother sat deliberately in the living room with her hands folded in her lap. She stood up and hugged me tightly, and I just cried. She told me that she knew about the child and filed for divorce from her stepfather. I asked her if their affair was consensual, and she was sure it was not. She found messages between them on his phone. After spending a day in grief with my mother, I decided to deal with this mistake that changed our lives. My stepfather betrayed me, the boy he raised. He taught me how to be a man, and he slept with my wife while I was fighting for the country. I stayed with my mother and soon processed my divorce from my wife. But later, additional details came to light about how my wife flirted with her stepfather. She started complimenting him, saying that he looked younger than his age and that his masculinity attracted her. She often stayed with my parents longer than necessary when I was deployed, and my stepfather made time for this too. She tried to dress more attractively when she knew he would be around, and sometimes touched his arm or shoulder, supposedly by accident, but in fact these were deliberate gestures to attract his attention. These moments of flirtation eventually developed into something more. She raised topics that were intimate, discussed her feelings and grievances, pretending that her stepfather was her only listener and comforter. This created an illusion of intimacy and trust, which she used to manipulate him into cheating. My ex-wife continued to text and call me, begging me to forgive her and help pay for the abortion. She couldn't afford to live without me, which meant that her fate was in my hands. I told her that even if she had an abortion, I couldn't just forgive and forget. I suggested that she ask my stepfather for money or earn money for an abortion herself, like a growing fetus. I told her family about her predicament, but they already knew and refused to help. The court ordered her to vacate the house, and she was losing her mind. Without help, she left voicemails and messages for me saying she couldn't bear the thought of losing her strong, brave, proud husband. I blocked her on all platforms. That was the last I heard of her. My stepfather hasn't spoken to me since all this happened. He didn't speak to anyone in our family, even after 25 years. It's as if he fell off the face of the earth, proving that he was a terrible person. He doesn't care about me or his unborn child, and that's what worries me the most. After this experience, I vowed to be a better father to my children and a better husband to my new wife. I soon learned that Emily had continued her relationship with that man. She even introduced him to our children, which made me even more angry. I tried to hold on for the sake of the children and not show them my feelings. My friends and family supported me during this difficult time, and I began going to therapy to cope with the pain and betrayal. A few years passed, and I learned to live again. I met a wonderful woman named Lauren who helped me believe in love and trust again. We started dating and soon got married. George and Isabella received her warmly. and our new family became stronger every day. Emily continued her life with that man, and although we no longer communicated, I heard that they were also doing well. I have learned to let go of grudges and forgive for the sake of my own happiness and the well-being of our children. This story taught me a lot. I realized that I trusted